Why is 30 Days of Night considered one of the scariest vampire movies ever made? Because this single aerial shot alone is enough to send chills down your spine. But what truly makes it terrifying isn't just the violence or gore, it's the suffocating sense of isolation and helplessness. Imagine yourself trapped in a remote town, cut off from the world, surrounded by snow and darkness, unable to reach anyone for help, while unseen creatures stalk you from the shadows. Wouldn't that feel hopeless? Viewers couldn't help but exclaim afterward, this is what a real vampire movie should be, one that completely shatters the old image of elegant and noble vampires. These ones are filthy, feral, and driven purely by instinct, hunting humans like mindless predators. The story takes place in the northernmost region of Alaska, a small town near the Arctic Circle surrounded by frozen wilderness for 40 kilometers. Each winter, this place enters a 30-day polar night when the sun sets and never rises again for a full month. As the next long night approaches, most residents decide to escape on the last flight out, unwilling to face the endless darkness, while only a few choose to stay behind. What they don't realize is that leaving now might actually save their lives. Meanwhile, on the other side of town, a massive ship suddenly appears offshore. A man rows a small boat to shore, glances solemnly back at the vessel, then turns and walks toward the town. Not long after sunset, strange things begin to happen. The sled dogs in a residence yard start barking wildly, as if they've seen something horrifying in the dark. Soon, the local police receive a call for help, and Sheriff Eben rushes to the scene. John insists they've had no conflicts with anyone lately, so who could be so twisted as to harm innocent dogs for no reason? Eben has no answer. He can only promise to catch the culprit as soon as possible. However, over at the oil refinery, something strange happened again. Someone had sabotaged their helicopter, throwing all the crucial parts into a grinder and destroying them completely. These bizarre events, one after another, fill Eben with a deep sense of dread. What he doesn't know yet is that the true nightmare is only beginning. At the signal station, an operator named Gus hears strange noises outside. He takes a flashlight and steps into the cold to check. He searches around for the source of the sound, but then feels an icy chill creeping up behind him. When he turns around, he finds himself surrounded by a crowd of human-shaped creatures. Before he can react, they pounce and drag him into the snow. Meanwhile, Eben drives to a small bar where he spots the same man who arrived from the ship earlier. The unfamiliar face raises Eben's suspicions, as anyone coming to town for work or travel would not choose to stay during this time. So Eben decides to bring him back to the station for questioning, but the man refuses to cooperate and even mocks him instead. Just then, a gun presses against the back of the stranger's head, and Eben seizes the chance to subdue him. The one holding the gun is Eben's wife, Stella. The two have been separated for a long time due to family conflicts. Stella, a firefighter, had planned to leave town today, but a car accident on the way to the airport caused her to miss the last flight and forced her to stay. At the station, she reunites with Eben's younger brother and their grandmother, while Eben locks the stranger in a cell. Checking records, Eben notices the man never took any flight into town. He questions how he arrived and what his purpose is here. The man refuses to answer, so Eben stops the interrogation. There's plenty of time ahead anyway. Hearing that, the man gives a chilling smile. Meanwhile, horror strikes again. 3 refinery workers are heading home, joking and playing rock, paper, scissors to decide whose house the woman will visit for dinner. As they shout for their co-worker, his bloody body suddenly drops from above, and the terrified woman runs for her life. The next second, 2 terrifying figures appeared right behind the man, and as you can imagine, his fate was sealed. Back at the station, the power and communication networks suddenly go down. Unable to contact the signal tower, Eben decides to check it out himself. But just then, the man suddenly began to speak.
Board the windows. Try to hide. They're coming. This time they're gonna take me with them. Honor me. Yeah. For all that I have done.
Who are they?
Almost as if on cue, the town's entire power grid fails. Fortunately, the station has a backup generator, keeping them from total darkness. Determined to find answers, Eben drives to the signal station, only to discover the door wide open and the place eerily silent. He looks around and discovers dried blood on the ground. Following the trail of blood, Eben looked ahead and, to his horror, discovered that all that was left of Gus was his severed head. Realizing the danger, Eben races back and warns everyone over the radio. Stay indoors, lock your doors and windows, and don't go outside under any circumstances. On his way back, he meets confused residents and tells them to return home if they have generators, or gather at the bar if they don't. When they ask what's happening, Eben has no answer. All he can do is urge them to stay safe. Meanwhile, John and his wife are still mourning their dogs, unaware that the real horror is closing in. A dark figure suddenly smashed through the window and burst into the house. Hearing his wife's terrified scream, John grabbed his hunting rifle and rushed into the kitchen, only to see her being dragged out through the window by the intruder. He chased outside immediately and caught her hand at the last second, but the creature's strength was far too great, and all he could do was watch helplessly as his wife vanished into the darkness. Back at the station, Eben stormed into the cell and angrily cuffed the man's hands to the iron bars. It was clear the stranger knew something. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said those strange, ominous words. But when Eben questioned him, the man just kept repeating the same sentence over and over again.
You're all dead!
His words only made everyone more terrified, especially since they still didn't even know what kind of creature they were facing. To prevent more deaths, Eben decided to take action. He would find Officer Billy and begin a full sweep of the town, determined to track down the killer. Worried for Eben's safety, Stella insisted on going with him, leaving his younger brother Jake and their grandmother at the station. On their way to Billy's house, Eben suddenly noticed something flash past ahead of them. Stella hit the brakes, got out, and lifted her binoculars to look into the distance. Without explaining, she quickly jumped back in and turned the car around. But before they could react, something darted through the darkness and leaped onto the roof, pounding violently on the car. Eben fired his gun, but missed. At the critical moment, Stella slammed the brakes, throwing the creature off the car through sheer inertia. What on earth was that thing? They didn't dare stop for even a second and sped away from the scene. When they finally made it back to the main street, they realized the entire town was under attack. Gunshots echoed in the distance, scattered and desperate. Suddenly, his grandmother's desperate cry for help came through the radio. It was clear that they were in danger too. But when they rushed back to the station in panic, all they found was blood splattered across the floor. Their grandmother and Jake were nowhere to be seen. Terrible feeling washed over Eben. The strange man, however, was still handcuffed in his cell. Seeing Eben, he expressed with utter despair that he had been abandoned by them, that they hadn't kept their promise to let him join them. He begged Eben to end his life, but Eben refused, leaving him there to face whatever came next. Then, the creatures finally revealed their true faces. They were a pack of ravenous, terrifying vampires. Under the command of their leader Marlow, the vampires launched a ruthless massacre across the town. The attack came so suddenly that no one had time to react. Whether hiding inside or trying to escape, no one could outrun the bloodthirsty creatures. Many fought back with guns and axes, but against such strength and speed, human resistance was useless. In a town where the sun wouldn't rise for 30 days, the vampires had found the perfect hunting ground. Despair and terror spread through every street. Screams echoed in the night, and the once peaceful town turned into a vision of hell. For now, the people hiding in the bar were safe, a few lucky souls who had narrowly escaped death. Before long, Eben and Stella arrived at the bar as well. To Eben's surprise, Jake was still alive. He had managed to flee there too, though their grandmother had not been so lucky. Eben barely had time to grieve. He knew the bar wouldn't stay safe for long, and they needed to find a better hiding place fast. Someone mentioned a nearby house with a hidden attic entrance that couldn't be seen from the outside, a perfect place to hide. Everyone agreed, but to be safe, Eben decided to use himself as bait to draw the vampires' attention, while Carter took the chance to lead the others to the attic. Without hesitation, Stella insisted on going with him, but before they got far, a pack of vampires spotted their vehicle. Just as the creatures surrounded them, a snowplow came roaring in from the side. It was Bo, the snowplow operator. Eben and Stella climbed aboard, narrowly escaping death once again. Marlow didn't bother to chase them, because in his eyes, those people had nowhere left to run, and would eventually become his food. When Eben and the others reached the house, they found the group already hiding in the attic. Haunted by the image of his grandmother being devoured alive, Jake trembled with lingering fear. After some discussion, everyone concluded that these creatures were the legendary vampires. Their only option now was to stay hidden, ration their supplies, and wait for an opportunity. Back at the police station, Marlow personally visited the cell where the stranger was locked. It turned out the man had made a deal with Marlow. He was the one who had killed the dogs and destroyed the helicopter at the refinery, all to trap the townspeople and help the vampires strike. In return, Marlow had promised to make him an immortal vampire. When he saw Marlow appear at the cell, he thought Marlow had come to keep his promise. But having outlived his usefulness, his fate was sealed. Days passed. Endless darkness and silence drove everyone to the edge. Worse still, the vampires began searching house by house. Their hiding place wouldn't stay secret for long. Someone didn't want to just sit and wait to die and suggested that they all try to escape. escape the town. After all, their food was running out, and even if the vampires didn't find them, they would eventually die slowly from starvation. Eben agreed that he had a point. However, without any means of transportation, escaping the town was clearly unrealistic. He remembered that the refinery's generator room was heavily reinforced. If they could reach the supermarket, gather enough supplies, and hide there, they might survive until daylight returned. Still, leaving now would be suicide, so they had to wait for the right moment. A blizzard strong enough to cover their movements. By the seventh day, the silent, lifeless town was suddenly pierced by a desperate scream for help. A woman was seen stumbling down the street, desperately calling out for rescue as she walked. Her voice caught the attention of Eben and the others. Some people wanted to rush out to save her, but Eben noticed something was wrong. Several vampires were crawling across the rooftops, silently following her. It was an obvious trap meant to lure the hidden survivors into the open. When the plan failed to draw anyone out, the woman's fate was inevitable. As the vampires gathered together, Eben slipped outside quietly. He had spotted movement beneath a nearby house, another survivor hiding in the crawl space. The man turned out to be John, whose leg was badly injured. Eben wanted to bring him back to the attic, but the moment he saw John's face, he froze in shock. John's eyes had turned black, and his sharp teeth gleamed in the dark. It was clear he had already been infected. Though John still showed traces of human awareness, his hunger and bloodlust were taking over, driving him closer step by step. Eben didn't dare fire his gun. The noise would attract more vampires. Before he could react, John lunged and shoved him to the ground. Luckily, John got tangled in the chain of a swing set. Eben seized the chance, grabbed an axe from the ground, hesitated for a moment, then struck hard. Even then, the creature kept moving. It wasn't until Eben finally severed John's head that the struggle stopped. Exhausted, Eben returned to the attic and soon fell into a deep sleep. Now Stella was the only one on watch, but Isaac couldn't take it anymore. He said he wouldn't just sit and wait to die, and decided to walk to the next town for help. Stella hurried after him to stop him, and the commotion woke Wilson, his son, who ran down to plead with his father as well. When Isaac realized he couldn't convince them to let him go, he changed the subject, saying he just needed to use the bathroom. Stella and Wilson didn't suspect anything and agreed. By the time they noticed he was gone, Isaac had already slipped out the window. Wilson couldn't just stand by and watch his father walk to his death, so he ignored Stella's warnings and went after him. Eben woke up to the noise and rushed downstairs, but it was too late. Outside, Wilson couldn't find his father anywhere. In panic, he called out, and the result was predictable. Stella blamed herself for not stopping them. She believed if she had been more forceful, maybe both of them would still be alive. Eben comforted her, saying she had done all she could. No one can stop a person desperate to save family. No one knew how much time had passed when finally a blizzard began to sweep across the town. Without hesitation, the group decided to act. Using the storm as cover, they made their way to the supermarket. Following their plan, they split up inside, gathering as much food and supplies as possible. But Bo stumbled upon something horrifying. A little girl, already turned into a vampire, crouched over a body and feeding. The moment she saw them, she shrieked and lunged at one of the men. Luckily, he reacted fast and kicked her across the room. The others rushed in to pin her against the wall, and together they managed to put her down. When they looked outside again, they realized the snowstorm had stopped. Staying in the supermarket was too dangerous, but leaving without cover was even worse. The group was trapped in a deadly dilemma. As every minute passed, the risk of being discovered grew. Carter stepped forward, ready to go out alone and draw the vampire's attention, giving the others a chance to escape. Then Stella thought of an idea. If vampires feared sunlight, could ultraviolet light hurt them too? Her grandmother's house had plenty of UV lamps. Bo thought that was just something from the movies and might not actually work in real life, but Stella didn't think so. Otherwise, why would the vampires choose to hunt only during the long polar night? And why would they go to such lengths to cut off the town's power? With no better choice, Eben decided to trust her. This mission had to be his. Before leaving, they agreed to regroup later at the station and then head to the refinery together. After giving his instructions, Eben grabbed an axe and ran out into the streets. Making as much noise as he could, he lured the vampire's attention while sprinting toward his grandmother's house. Once inside, he started the generator, powered up the UV lamps, and waited for the monsters to come. Moments later, a pack of vampires arrived outside. At Marlow's command, a female vampire rushed in first. Eben immediately raised the lamp. The vampire let out a piercing scream and was forced back by the intense ultraviolet light, her face burning into charred blackness within seconds. The experiment worked. The light really could kill them, but the vampires quickly reacted, cutting off the power at once. Eben had no choice but to escape through the back door. Marlow, however, wasn't about to let him go that easily. Afraid of leading the vampires straight back to the station, Eben prepared himself for the worst. Just then, But Bo appeared again, driving a bulldozer straight through the street. The roaring machine instantly crushed several vampires to pieces. Bo never intended to make it back alive. He drove the bulldozer straight into a building, ignited a box of explosives, and went up in flames together with the vampires chasing after him. Watching Bo, the man who had saved him twice, blown to pieces before his eyes, Eben was powerless and could only return to the station to reunite with the others. Before he could recover from the grief, more bad news arrived. Carter solemnly confessed that he had been bitten by the vampire girl back at the supermarket. His body was already changing, and for the safety of everyone else, he had no choice but to tell the truth. Carter only had one last wish: for Eben to end his suffering. Eben hesitated, but knew there was no other way. To protect the group, he granted Carter's final request. With his death, only 5 of them remained. Days passed and still no new blizzard came. They endured in the station until the 27th day. The endless night was finally nearing its end. Just 3 more days and they would see the sun again. Then, through the window, Eben spotted a flash of light across the street. It looked like a signal for help. Eben immediately responded with his flashlight. The other party signaled back. Based on the flashing pattern, he guessed it was likely Officer Billy. So Eben and Stella rushed over without hesitation. When they reached the house, they found Billy sitting motionless in the corner, his eyes hollow. On the bed lay the lifeless bodies of his wife and child. During the first wave of vampire attacks, Billy had fled with his family, but they hadn't gotten far before being attacked again. Though they managed to hide in this house, both his wife and child were infected. Billy had no choice but to end their pain with his own hands. He had planned to follow his family and leave this world, but fate cruelly toyed with him when the last bullet jammed. Stepping back into the street, Eben and Stella realized that a new blizzard had started. They hurried to return to the station, but when they got there, everyone was gone. The others must have taken advantage of the storm to head for the refinery. Eben and Stella followed their trail, but halfway there the blizzard suddenly stopped. For safety, they had to find a place to hide. Then, out of nowhere, a little girl appeared in the street. Even though they knew it was a trap, Stella's instincts took over. She rushed out and grabbed the girl, trying to protect her. That act of kindness gave away their position. The vampires found them. To draw the creatures away from Stella and the girl, Eben crawled out from under the building without hesitation. But Billy followed him out too. The two immediately ran in opposite directions, successfully drawing the vampires' attention. After narrowly escaping, Eben reached the refinery's generator room and finally reunited with Jake and the others, but Stella and the girl were nowhere to be seen. Moments later, Billy stumbled in as well, believing he had lost the vampires, unaware that one had followed him inside. As he searched for Eben, the creature attacked. Eben and the others rushed to help, but by the time they arrived, Billy had already been bitten. Eben swung his axe to defend him, but the vampire kicked him hard across the floor. The others joined in, yet even together they couldn't overpower the monster. In that desperate moment, the wounded Billy made one last stand. He charged forward, grabbed the vampire, and threw it into the shredder. The beast was destroyed, but Billy lost an arm and began to transform. There was no saving him. Tears in his eyes, Eben ended his friend's pain. After the battle, they finally made contact with Stella over the radio. She and the little girl, Gail, were hiding under a car, shivering in the freezing cold. Vampires roamed all around them. They couldn't move an inch. The only hope left was that sunrise was just a few hours away. But the vampires weren't giving up. They planned to wipe out every last survivor before the light returned. The cunning vampires sabotaged the oil pipelines, planning to burn down the entire town and the hidden survivors, making it all look like an accident. That way, no one would ever suspect the truth, and anyone who tried to flee the burning town would only run straight into the vampires waiting outside. As the flames spread closer to Stella and the child, Eben made a daring decision. He took a syringe, drew blood from Billy's body, and injected it into his own vein. He would turn himself into one of them, using their strength to save the people he loved. He had noticed earlier that newly turned vampires retained a few minutes of human awareness. That was his only chance. As the infected blood surged through him, Eben felt his body changing rapidly. Without delay, he stepped into the street, hat pulled low, and walked straight toward the vampires. Marlow instantly sensed something wrong. He motioned for the others to step back. This intruder had turned without his permission, and he would deal with him personally. At first, Eben managed to fight evenly with him, using his new power to land several blows, but Marlow soon struck back, overwhelming him completely. Eben's goal wasn't to win, it was to buy enough time for Stella to escape. Marlow, arrogant and sure of himself, toyed with him like a cat playing with prey. He believed no newborn could possibly match his strength, but as he prepared to end the fight, Eben found his opening and drove his fist straight through Marlow's head. Seeing their leader dead, the other vampires didn't dare to come closer, and with dawn about to break, they had no choice but to scatter and flee. Stella approached Eben, tears filling her eyes. She couldn't believe her husband had turned into a monster just to save her. The others rejoiced at their survival, but Stella could only look at Eben with heartbreak. Eben didn't regret his choice. He had simply done what a husband was supposed to do. Finally, the long-awaited sunlight rose over the horizon. Stella leaned against Eben's shoulder atop the frozen hills. After everything they had endured, all their pain and anger melted away. Eben could have chosen immortality, could have become the new leader of the vampires, but instead, he chose to spend his last moments with his wife, because he had promised his wife long ago that he would watch the first sunrise after the long night with her, and now he could finally keep that promise. As the sunlight touched his skin, fire consumed him from within, and Stella held him tightly, refusing to let go until his body turned to ash in her arms.